Good evening. Hopefully now we might be getting somewhere. It's been a wet, dreary night. And we've been building to have a very close look at the Friends of Science in Medicine, and I'm hoping this time everybody can see what's going on. We don't have anybody connected yet. 9:19, that's probably why. Who have we got? Number 2. Cutting in now, finally. We had, thank you, Vicky. You're allowed to ask questions during this one too. I'll hopefully try and look at them. But yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties. I think the weather's got to us, and even though it was showing 3 bars 4G or whatever, it was telling me the connection wasn't strong enough. I'm just wondering whether Telstra might be trying to interfere with this one. What do you think? It's only got 2 people, but anyway, look, who else is there? Do you want to own up? Might be John Cunningham, but we'll just focus, I think, on the newspaper today, actually. Let's see if I can work out how to do this. Anybody read the Age? How are you, Eddie? Front page of the Age was as follows. Doctor abuse scandal. Interesting. Grows. And I wonder if anybody knows these reporters, Julia and Nick. Okay. Nearly 50 doctors accused of violating, sorry for this moving beast, I'll have to get like a cradle, but for anyone who knows how to do Facebook Live, please get in touch with me, because I can't find anyone that really does, and this is the best I can do. You can only do it off your iPhone, you can't do it off your computer. So 50 doctors violated sexual boundaries and a controversial chaperone system that allegedly failed 3 patients last year. And then Fairfax Media can also reveal that Dr. Andrew Churchyard, a neurologist working in Victoria, had, wait for it, allegedly molested more than 35 patients over 13 years and was able to continue practicing despite a complaint to the medical board in 2007. Now, Victorian Health Minister Jill Hennessy is calling for a review. Well, it's taken her a while, and all of Dr. Churchyard's alleged victims were male, and he then suicided after it all being uncovered last week. Now, we don't like anybody suiciding, and I'm sure his family are absolutely devastated. But interestingly, there's a very good group of lawyers I better find out a bit more about. Ms. Noster, does anybody know Bree? Advice Line Injury Lawyers. Love to get in touch with her. Not about this matter, of course, because that's a confidential matter, but I've got lots and lots of other possibilities for us to look at. Now, what's the relevance of looking at this doctor abuse scandal when I'm focusing on the Friends of Science in Medicine? Well, if you want to go back to why I'm here, well, we won't go all the way back. We'll just go back to 2011 and the case that I helped Melbourne-based brilliant hyperbaric oxygen therapist, then Dr. Hooper, challenged by the then Chiropractic Board of Australia chairman, Dr. Paul Donato, and all these AHPRA bosses, and Carol Geyer and QC Ian Freckleton. That was a corrupt case. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It was a corrupt decision at VCAT. It's more corrupt as I read this story. I don't know how you can be more corrupt, but it's in degree of corruptness, the bar's being raised. Because do you imagine being a practitioner? Put your hand up if you're a practitioner. Send something across the screen. If you're a practitioner and you go before this tribunal, you'd expect to get some natural justice. Well, the reason I'm here is because I sat through 55 of the 66 days. Mal had already done 11 days and pretty much run out of money, and we still had the hearing to come. So I assisted him, Dr. Cunningham. I never said I acted and represented him. But I did have a practicing certificate, by the way, during part of that case. So you were wrong on that one, Dr. Cunningham. Trying to make aspersions at my character. So when we got to the hearing, which lasted 34 days from memory, longest health practitioner case ever, and it was a win for us, because when you spend over $1 million and you're taking on a practitioner, you want to win and make sure they don't practice. Well, they lost the prohibition order. Lost the prohibition order. Dr. Cunningham thinks we lost. Well, they've tried 11, 12 regulators after that, and so far so good, but we've now got another challenge. Now, how many doctors gave evidence? There are 7 doctors. 6 doctors were experts in hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which was the specialty of Dr. Hooper. 1 doctor said he was not an expert. 6 doctors' evidence was considered by remedial massage therapist, we now find. I kid you not, Dr. Ian Freckleton QC. I apologise I called you Rumple of the Bailey in my LinkedIn post, Ian. But we've just been told that Ian is a massage therapist. I didn't realise he was a natural therapist until this morning. So when it got to the end of 34 days of hearing, Dr. Freckleton had 7 allegations of professional misconduct relating to Dr. Hooper and the QS, the nickname for the patient. 7 separate allegations, predominantly informed consent, monitoring, false and misleading advertising was another one, reporting and so on, note-taking. The 6 medical doctors specialists in hyperbaric, none were used to prove those 7 allegations. 1 doctor's evidence was used. 1 doctor's evidence who said he was not an expert. Why was he not an expert? Because he was Dr. Churchyard. I kid you not. So here's Dr. Churchyard, who'd been disciplined by AHPRA or medical boards. We don't know how many times. The lawyers are saying it goes back to 2002. The only way they could pin that was going to be the biggest test case ever and be used against every chiro and every Chinese practitioner and every other person they could get their greedy little hands on. That was the be-all and end-all. And one day I'll take you through massage therapist Dr. Ian Freckleton, and we'll delve into his background. Boy, we will delve now. So Dr. Churchyard's evidence was accepted in many of those 7 allegations, at a time when AHPRA had disciplined him and on more than one occasion would appear. So that's the depths AHPRA had to go to nail Mal, and they still failed. They still failed. And I say their latest attempt with ACCC, that will be very strenuously defended as well. So we've got a big meeting coming up in Sydney, and I'm waiting for an invitation from any one of the associations representing the natural practitioners. I just don't seem to find anyone to talk to. I've been talking since February, so I would assume the associations wanting to have a proper debate about AHPRA will invite me to be on the expert panel. You'd assume that, and we'll just see how that pans out. Now, if that's what you get when you go to AHPRA, before the Friends of Science took off, right, they were pretty quiet before then. They set Mal up to be the play, right? They got aggressive afterwards when they failed on that one, and then they've gone through enormous numbers of complaints. I mean, there's some documents here the Friends of Science in Medicine did back in 2012. So you can see this particular document was a letter to chiropractors about advertising. And look, Victorian Skeptics, the official blog of the Victorian branch of the Australian Skeptics. letter to chiropractors back in June 2012. Letter was sent, etc., etc. So, you know, we've got the direct link with the Skeptics Association, UK General Chiropractic Council. We're concerned about asthma. We're concerned about chiropractic period pain, chiropractic bedwetting, etc., etc. And so it goes on. And asthma, you know, anything they can get their hands on. Here's all the other ones: back pain, whiplash, poor posture, babies, knee injuries. This is where they came from. They came from the skeptics, okay? Now, let's just see a little bit more about the Friends of Science. So, we've got TV over there. We've got some Olympics. I haven't watched any. Hope we're going all right. So this is the website. Who has looked at the website? scienceinmedicine.org.au. Friends of Science in Medicine. Here they are. Their latest media release just out last week. Better read it. Acupuncture found to be pointless. So they're now challenging big time complementary and alternative health practices. So what you need to do, you have to study all of this. You need to go and have a look at it, about their history up here, commitments and principles here, summary of principles. Then here we have conventional medicine together with allied health professions is an applied activity. And so you need to read through all of this and you'll get eventually to where they acknowledge the Cochrane Review, and I'll study Cochrane tomorrow night with the friends. You need to click on this one here, FSM Friends. You need to look at the individuals in 1st of March. They now updated that to 25th of March 2016, so there is a newer one. And they've also got overseas links. And let's just see if we can have a look at some of those overseas ones. We'll look at the, yeah, here we go, overseas. Because yesterday we talked about Dr. Offit, and we've got some overseas friends in New Zealand. We've got California, University of Colorado. Now that's interesting, isn't it? University of Colorado. Any naturopaths out there? That testimony I put up the last couple of days was in Colorado, okay, where they're trying to take out naturopathy in Colorado. So there's a direct link on the Australian Friends of Science to Professor Carl Batecci, probably haven't pronounced it correctly, Distinguished Professor of Clinical Medicine, School of Medicine, University of Colorado, blah, blah, blah. So that is a stunning 2 hour. You've got to look at that testimony, please, please. Now there's controversies about CAM. There's reference documents over here. There's a lot of material here where they criticise just about every area of natural health. So please have a look at that. And then you've got to always look at where they're at the moment. So newsletters, and look at the bitter pill below there. I wonder what that is. And then you go to the latest newsletter, and this is a critical one, and this should be given to every politician, every patient, okay? This newsletter. So the action step for homework for practitioners, please send the newsletter, right? What's new since our last newsletter? Look at that, letter to private health insurance funds. Well, didn't Shorten act on the NHMRC report and say you didn't have enough evidence? Well, look who's behind it, okay? Right behind it. So that's a damaging quarterly report. It was done 13th of June, 17th of June. So put your hand up if you're prepared to send it to a client or your client list or your local politician so they're aware. There are something like 2,500 complaints with the Friends. Now, I've got another document here Apart from the Friends of Science, poor old Luke Abraham, if we started at A's, he's a student Bachelor of Medical Science at Flinders University. Who else have we got? We've got Dr. Mark Baldwin, private practice, Melbourne, Royal Melbourne Hospital. We've got people like Professor Simon Brooks. Oh, that could be interesting. Simon Brooks, human physiology and so on. And there's even Professor Alan Cowman, that sounds familiar. Division of Infection and Immunity, the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute. So there are reams and reams and reams of friends. But it doesn't end there. Professor John Dwyer, the head of it, also is the head of this movement. I haven't talked about this before, so I'm just going to let you in on a little secret. Australian Healthcare Reform Alliance. Anybody heard of it? No. Australians must be given the opportunity to decide, what kind of healthcare system they want, how much they are prepared to pay for it. Well, let me tell you, we're going to dissect this. I've got a draft post that got rummaged in LinkedIn a few days ago. I wonder who broke into my LinkedIn draft section. Here's all the different entities down here. Let me see if there's a better list. I'll get you a better list next time, but you can just see these are all associations that have joined the Australian Healthcare Reform Alliance, headed by John Dwyer, president of the Friends of Science in Medicine. So you're not just dealing with John Dwyer and his mob and Dr. John Cunningham, you are dealing with all of these other organisations. Health Consumers Network, Health Professions Council of Australia. Who are all these bodies? Health Consumers of Rural and Remote Areas, Royal Australian College, we know them. Nurses Association, Tory Medicare Action Group. So, back to me. What's happening out here is an incredible spider web. They put tentacles everywhere, and just when they needed the right witness in an AHPRA case, in they brought Dr. Churchyard. Can you imagine how much power they had over Dr. Churchyard? Like, he's sitting there at any point, they could have stopped his practice, and they called him as a witness. And I'm going to put up his witness testimony one day. And AHPRA knew that they had him over a barrel. Well, if that's not a captive witness, and I guarantee Dr. Freckleton knew that he'd been under supervision, if that's the best they can come up with. And by the way, the CEO of AHPRA, Mr. Fletcher, they still haven't come up with a bill. No one will say who paid the bill. So they've got a much bigger problem now that they used Dr. Churchyard when he should never have been a witness for AHPRA in against, how can that man be an expert witness against another practitioner? I mean, it's just like, it's mind-boggling that could happen in Australia. But it did. Worse still, the 6 medical doctors were ignored. Now, if you've got any questions, anyone got a question they'd like to put about the Friends of Science and their agenda, which is one of a bias. They only have 2 modes of operation. They have sounds of silence when you ask them a question and you hear nothing. That's Associate Professor Helen Marshall, who we went to Adelaide and we saw Helen present her very well documented PowerPoint on how safe and proven vaccines are for pregnant women, but she ignored the Cochrane Standard Review. So she's not replied to anything I say or do there, apart from not really answering a question on the day, but nothing since, I mean. So that's a sounds of silence. That's a very normal strategy for Friends of Science when they're in a pickle. Then they do what's I call an ICI, which is ignore Cochrane review evidence and then insult. That's I for ignore, C for Cochrane, and I for insult. And Dr. John Cunningham's a past master of that, and we had a lot of fun, John. We were probably how many nights to 1 o'clock The last couple of weeks, he's very voracious. We're back. We'll let others judge. So that's the Friends of Science. The sister body, or the brother, or the parent, whatever you want to call the US one, we dealt with last night and the night before, the Institute of Science in Medicine with Dr. Offit and others. They're very identical, and that's why the website addresses like scienceinmedicine.org.au in Australia, and it's scienceinmedicine.org in the US. So we're talking about the same organisation. The vaccination is a huge part of it. It's not the only part of it. They want every element of natural health eliminated, and the testimony from Dr. Offit is all you need to listen to on that 2-hour link that I put up the last couple of days. I promise I'll put it up again immediately I get off here, and please listen to that. So thank you, Judy, for joining, and if nobody's got any questions, we'll move till 9/11 tomorrow night, and that's the deadline I've got on Minister Hennessy, and that's in relation to which associations put in submissions to the health complaints legislation that's passed in April in Victoria, due to start in February, but we've still got a chance to overturn it, particularly as these various strange occurrences and coincidences happen. And one of those is Dr. Chochard. Unfortunately, he's taken his own life. And the other one, the major one from yesterday, is the NHMRC review on homeopathy. So thank you very much for joining in. It is Olympic night, and there's no event on right now, so I might turn them on. And Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. I hope you get a winner there with the Aussies. And I've got my Manchester Games. I sponsored the Commonwealth Games back there. I've got the tracksuit, and I'm all set to go. So unfortunately, Andrew Hoy didn't get picked in the equestrian. I thought he might have for his 8th Olympian, but he did ride my horse to a silver medal in Sydney Olympics. And guess what? That was a corrupt judgment decision. I've never gone back over it. I was so upset that the US judge marked his dressage, I think, 11th or 12th, and the other 2 judges marked him 2nd, I think, and 3rd. It was an absolute stitch-up, and he missed by 1 rung in the show jumping. He would have won the gold on my horse. So you can even get a corruption in the judging right up to the Olympics. So poor old Andrew has done 7 in a row. I feel for him. He's 58, and I reckon he'll come back and get 8. And hopefully we'll make enough money off some drug company here that will all put money in and get Andrew Hoy into the Olympics for the Japanese one. Well, that'll be exciting. So to all my athlete friends, I might start interviewing you about your therapy. So I'll see if anyone's prepared to talk to me, and that might be a bit of fun. Okay, I'm definitely going now.